Hi there, I hope I find you well and welcome back to the Loft here with Warworld and myself, Jennifer Kirk. Today's video we're going to be talking you through some of the little projects that I've been up to on Warworld, improving the model but also doing a few bits and pieces investigating products that are out there on the market. And today's video of course has been made possible by the sponsorship of the channel sponsor Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories, and you can check them out at the links down below, both the Train-O-Matic website and their UK stockists tramfabrique.nl. But I'm really looking forward to showing you some of the progress up here, so without further ado, let's take a look. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the DCC Concepts Rolling Road. Now this is actually quite an interesting piece of kit, and it's one of those things that you're left feeling, how did you manage before you got it once you get one of these? It's multi-gauge too, so it's suitable for a number of different scales and gauges, and particularly useful if you operate in a number of different gauges, and for example if you've got N gauge and 00, then it is great for you. The DCC Concepts Rolling Road is a product that I've seen advertised around but never quite got round to getting myself one. And I guess DCC Concepts felt that this was a massive oversight. And you know what? They were right. They sent over the 12 pack here, and it is so useful to the point where actually I'm now left thinking, after no more than a week of using this, why I never got one before. Now you can see here, this is the packaging it comes in. I've got the rollers out and you can see some of the rollers just lined up there. I've also fitted the central skate to some of these, and the reason actually is quite clear. I've done some test running of some of my father's Hornby 00 locomotives, and this is one of the party tricks that this set of rolling road rollers does bring to the party. I got an A4 Pacific running perfectly on this, and it actually showed that the maintenance I'd been doing here was working. It also highlighted my Duchess of Montrose, what was actually wrong with that. Unfortunately that chassis is terminal, but the Silver King rides again, and all thanks to the rolling road that allowed me to be able to test these and tweak them without having to head on back to my father's layout in his, he calls it his warehouse, but it's actually an extension on the side of the house. And it will mean that I can service and repair his locomotives far more effectively. Inside the packaging you can see here we've got a vast assortment of these inserts, and if I bring over one of the rollers you can see that these are alternative inserts to go between the roller bearing wheels there, and this means that you can actually use this one kit to be able to run locomotives on these rolling roads with greatest of ease for from memory OO, HO, TT, HOE, 009, N, P4 and EM. I may have missed one out, but certainly there is an awful lot of different options for this, and they really easily work as well for things like Marklin with the skate pickups, and as you may have seen from the video, with Hornby 002. So very, very versatile. So actually what we've got here is 2-rail track, but I've put a piece of clear sellotape over one of the rails, and that's because of the way that the 3-rail works. It picks up from the center live, and then neutral is both of the side rails, so if you didn't put that tape down it would short out. I'm going to put that very carefully onto these rollers. Now the center driving wheels on all Hornby 00 locomotives are completely flangeless, so that's balanced on there, and from the gauge master at the back, let's give it a little bit of power, and I just need to rock that a little bit. It's not happy. Try it the other way. Now this locomotive hasn't run in a very long time. And there you have it, Hornby 003 rail running on my test track. And actually letting this run with a little bit of light oil might actually sort out a lot of its issues. So I'm really pleased with this. So one of the little known features with this is that you can use it to run some of your old childhood favourites that may not necessarily fit in with your current collecting, but nonetheless you would never ever let these go. So for me, this is happy memories of getting it second hand on a Christmas in 1985, I think it was, when I got my Silver King second hand. And love that locomotive. That's when I fell in love with the A4 Pacifics. Now I put in over here an extra test track, and the reason for this was that I didn't have the switches to be able to switch my regular test tracks between DC and DCC. So actually what I've aimed to do with this is this now allows me, in conjunction with these rollers, to actually test run locomotives. So I'm going to put out 3 on there, and then I'm going to just grab the Bachmann Class 4 diesel shunter. They have a split chassis, so notoriously difficult to DCC fit. And whilst I have actually managed to DCC fit one, and I think I did a video about that in association with Trainomatic, I've chosen not to bother with any of the other ones, instead holding out for Bachmann to retool this particular model. I do like it, one of my favourite diesel locos. But on the rolling road, it allows us to run her up, and she can run and run and run without ever needing to go anywhere. So you don't actually need a layout to fettle your locomotives. Now, the split chassis locos are notorious for losing their quartering, and it sounds like this one is really struggling there. So I'm going to just turn around, see if she is happy to go the other way. And as well, if you have something like an end-to-end layout, this is a really good way of getting your locomotives to run really, really smoothly and effectively. So you just don't need a big layout to be able to do this. Now, one of its other party tricks is it doesn't really care whether you're working on DC or DCC. So somewhere over here, I'm going to find some space, and I'm going to put them onto my main track. I've got a Class 8 shunter on there, Piccadilly, one of the Hornby ones. So we've got an 8673 is the loco number I need. And this does mean that she is ready to go and will just go on the spot. So you can see these rollers work just as well on DCC as they do DC. And I found them a major boon for maintenance work, for running locos in, and also they're going to feature regularly on the review videos to be able to show locomotives running on DC before I do the DCC fitting, which is something that I know some of you guys have been asking for. So really pleased to see this product. It gets a massive thumbs up from me, and look forward to it in future videos. We're also going to be taking a look at the ModelTech ProTrack liner. Now this is a product that was sent over for review a few weeks ago, and I finally got around to taking a really good close look at this. So I'll guide you through just what this product does and why this is essential for your model railway if you're building anything that needs to be taken apart and put back together, but also if you're looking for an easy and cheap way of aligning locomotive cassettes. This is a new product from a new company, but certainly it's something that I remember when I was building Grove Street Yard. I wished that something like this had been on the market to make lining up tracks across baseboard joins so much easier. Grove Street Yard is of course an exhibition layout, so it has to get taken apart, put up again, time and time again. And I've had such unreliability where tracks cross the baseboard join. And for a novice, it can be a really difficult area. Even now, it's not an area that I particularly relish. And when these were sent over, I was really looking forward to fitting them to the War of the Worlds layout. Now, I haven't been able to get access to that of late because the Bolton Model Railway Club is only open on, I think it's Mondays at the same time as the Monday Club. So what I'm going to do is I've got a couple here out of the box, and I'm going to do a demonstration with these I'm going to solder one of these to the end of my DC test track. I'm going to fit it in as you would at a baseboard join, and then I'm going to solder the other onto a spare piece of track, and then show just how easy it then is to line the pair up first time every time and just roll rolling stock across like there never was a join in the first place. And there's the final piece finished. You can see scrap piece of track and one of the rail joiners are there on this just scrap piece of wood. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this in place. So this will represent something like a loco cassette or even going across a baseboard join. And you can see that the track is lining up perfectly first time every time. And that kind of jagged zigzag edge just locates everything perfectly. And what I'm going to now do, I'm going to have to move to a different camera because I don't have three hands. I've got a test locomotive there. And I'm going to run it at high speed straight across this joint onto this flimsy piece of wood. And it's going to land on this piece of track. I say land, it's going to just go straight across onto this piece of track and be perfectly on the rails. So let's go. So the verdict on the ModelTech ProTrack alignment tool is that it is really, really great. I have to say, very, very pleased with the results, even on this rather ramshackle test that I've conducted. And this is probably about as least favourable as it could ever get with just that piece of wood held in my hand, and it just worked. So can I recommend this product? Certainly I can, and you'll find an affiliate link in the description box down below if you want to go and find these for yourself. And they do them in different scales and gauges too, so whether you do 016.5, O gauge, EMP4, N gauge, that kind of thing, they have a product suitable for you. Also, if you follow the link in the description box down below to the ModelTech website to buy your version of these, don't forget to add in the code GenKirk-10 and you will get 10% off your order. I'm also going to be taking a look at another product from DCC Concepts. This is the Power Bus Suppressor. Now you might remember that we've had a few issues with spikes on Weir Yard. Why has that just stopped? Oh! And these products were kindly sent over by DCC Concepts to try and combat this. They're actually a device that effectively just takes those spikes that can occur when, for example, a wheel shorts across the frog of an insul frog point and just creates that horrible spike which sometimes can cause a decoder to pop. That can be caused by, amongst other things, if a locomotive or rolling stock wheel momentarily sparks across on, say, an insul frog point that's been left wired as an insul frog point, and it's easy enough to do. I've done a few on this layout. It can sometimes cause a spike in the DCC supply as the supply can't quite react fast enough to kill the power. So what these do is they absorb that spike and stop them from doing any damage to the DCC decoders. Now, DCC Concepts have been very kind to send some of these over in an attempt to sort out the occasional popping of decoders that we've had.
Oof. What's set off? Have you broken something?
I hope that we haven't just lost the magic smoke from something.
Are you breaking your choo-choos?
So I'm really thankful for that, and I'm going to take the time to fit these and also show you how to fit them and just give you the rundown of how they work. And fingers crossed, maybe it'll sort out that problem. Certainly can't help to try, and it's good practice to have these in the system. So what I'm going to need to fit these underneath the baseboards into the existing wiring, I've got a pair of needle nose pliers, wire snips. I'm going to use these two just to bare the ends, and actually my power bus goes through an awful lot of connector blocks. Now I know a lot of people go, oh, your terminal connector blocks, really bad idea. Well, actually they do work out for me, and it does mean that I can fit these relatively easily, and the whole point of them was that I use a hub and spoke method. So I'm also going to need a jeweler's screwdriver to get underneath there, just to open up the chock block, get the wire in and close it up again. One word of warning on these is that in normal operation they do get warm, about 65 degrees warm, so they will actually be unpleasantly hot to the touch. That means they're working. But it does mean don't bury these away, tucked away in something that it'll melt or char. They need some good airspace around them. So I'm going to actually leave them to dangle relatively free underneath the terminal connector blocks. Not so low that they're going to get caught on things being put under the boards, but certainly low enough down that they're going to get a good airflow all the way round them. One of the areas that I've identified is the chock block in the middle of frame over there, where you see the black and the red wire coming out. That's the left and right rail. And that is the main feed into a kind of final hub and spoke in this part of the layout. Now my wiring, as you can see, is really not the neatest. Never was, never will be, not really bothered about it. So we've wriggled underneath, and that up there, just part those wires out of the way. It's my left and the right. So what I'm going to do with this bus suppressor kit is to take one of them. Each kit comes with two. I'm going to connect it across from that terminal to that terminal, and that will provide suppression in this part of the DCC bus. I can then go elsewhere underneath the layout and look for somewhere else that would benefit from putting the other one in, and so forth, and just keep going until we've used them all up and got every area of the layout adequately protected. So what I need is, I'm going to need a little flathead jeweler's screwdriver to just loosen these two terminals off. I'm going to pre-bare the ends of the actual suppressor, and then it'll just be a case of putting them in, screwing it down and making sure everything is tight. Once the DCC supply is turned on, it should become actually quite hot to the touch. Don't just grab hold of them, because you will regret that. Trust me, ask how I know. I know because I've grabbed hold of them. I actually had to ring up Richard Brighton at DCC Concepts and go, can I just check with you, is this normal? And he went, yes. If they're hot, they're working. If they're cold, they're not actually wired in properly. This is one of the chokes. I just thought I'd show you this. And it comes shrink wrapped in blue. There's a resistor in there and something else. And then you get a black and a red wire. These are the ones that we're going to add into that chock block. So I'm going to go ahead now and do that. I can't hold the camera and do this at the same time. So just remember what you're seeing there, and for you it'll be a blink of an eye. There is the DCC bus choke in position. I had to move some of the wires across on that chock block. Luckily there was a spare one on the end here, simply because for some reason it lost its thread. As is the way when you can't see things properly, they do seem to enjoy making a hash. But there's one of them fitted, as you can see. It's dangling down, not too far down that it's going to come a cropper against things that are put underneath. I'm now going to go looking around the layout and find another location that would benefit from one of these. And it's as simple as that. You just need one at the end of every single kind of spoke on the system to the nodes. A lot of people do their DCC bus in slightly different ways. This is the way that I've done mine, and it does work, and hopefully this is going to make it work even better. It's a really easy product to fit on any DCC power bus. And if you like the look of these and think that this is something that you need to add to your layout, don't forget that you can find a link to this product in the description box down below. And finally, I'm also going to be taking a look at the Warworld Scenics Pro Grass Applicator. This particular static grass applicator is specifically designed for applying static grass up to 12 millimeters long, so it's really great for getting that rough grass look. The Warworld Scenic Static Grass Applicator range is something that I've found really great of late. I'm really grateful for Warworld Scenics for sending these over. And you can see there the Pro Grass Applicator, and this is the largest in their range. And it does include a number of interchangeable heads. And as you can see there, it's quite a coarse gauze there with the metal. And the reason for that is so that you can apply the longest static grass. I've got some 10 and 12 millimeters from their range, and I'm going to be using their static grass layering spray to try and apply it over there. And you can see this embankment has always been something of a disappointment. In front of that, what I've done is I have screened off the track with some offcuts of card. This was left over from the Hornby project, and the reason for that is because I don't want the static grass getting into the ballast, because especially with the 12mm length stuff, it stands a risk of clogging up motors because it will get picked up by passing trains, but it also won't look right. You know, mainline ballast doesn't really look right when it's covered in what is actually the equivalent of some quite long brambles. I've also got a new filming board which I'm going to be using here to lean on, and it'll spread my weight and stop any point damage when I'm actually resting on there to reach over to there, because if I pull back a bit you can see that's actually quite far into the model. I've cleared out the TMD at the front, all the locomotives are away and the shed has been lifted off because it's not fastened down. But unfortunately these yard lamps are glued in position, so I'm going to have to try and work around them and be very careful not to break them, although I do half expect that I'm going to manage to do that because I can be a little bit clumsy. It's very easy to do when you're leaning right over to the back there. Now the effect that I'm going for, I'm going to try and show you over here. This is an area where I did a test pass with the Progress applicator. And you might remember this from some of the previous videos where I pointed out the grounded wagon body and some of the bushes. And I've since gone over this area in front with the Progress applicator, and that is a mix of 10 and 12 mil static grass. I've also added in some scatter to give a sense of other vegetation, flowers as well. And I'm actually really pleased with the outcome. Now, one of the things I did do was I used masking tape just to help protect the ballast, and largely that's come through unscathed. Buoyed by the success of this area, I've decided that what I want to do is to do that embankment over there. So it's going to be a bit boring to watch, and the technique is much the same as we've had with some of the previous static grass applicators, just on a grander scale. So what we'll probably do is just show you that come together if we can with a time lapse. The actual static grass that I've picked is over here, so you can see spring 12mm. I've also got wild meadow 12mm, which is probably a little bit more apt. I've also gone for patchy 12mm, and then final biggie is the 10mm summer, and by using a blend of all these we can get quite a natural effect. I've also picked out a few scatters, things like mid-green foliage, fine dark green scatter, olive green scatter, all of the like. And then finally from the flower kits I've got these purple heads, which is more a suggestion I guess of something like buddleia. And also I may or may not add in a little bit of yellow as well. I don't want too much of this, it can get quite overpowering if you put in too much, but certainly a few bits and pieces in there will add a splash of colour. But I think that this is going to look quite good if I can get it in some nice neat patches. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what we can achieve. And the job is done. Certainly that embankment looks like it blends together much better than it did before. There's some of the old effects still visible behind there, which I'll get to in time. As you can probably tell, I'm really out of breath, leaning across all of this without causing any damage, and I have caused a little bit of damage to that chimney pot. But apart from that, I think everything's escaped unscathed. But that really quite wild grass does look a lot better than we had before. One of the limitations, though, of the Warworld Scenics static grass applicator, especially a large one such as the ProGrass applicator, is that by nature of the angle of the roof coming down, you're having to go in at nearly a 45-degree angle, and that does compromise the effectiveness of getting the actual static grass out. However, I persevered, and as you saw on the speeded up footage, hopefully, you can see that it did come together and it blended a lot of that terrain far better. Using those screens on the track, it's kept the ballast relatively clear of the static grass, and I did give a quick once over with the track rubber. One of the other areas I thought, well, you know, I need to show this off a bit, I've done here. And I did it again, screened off the track with the cardboard, and then I applied it. And because we were going down vertically, this was so much better to do. And I took the opportunity to try out some of the pink flowers. So I'm going to try and get the camera in nice and close, and you can see that kind of almost like briar undergrowth effect, really long static grass. And this is the kind of effect that it might have in days gone by tried to achieve with hanging basket liner. There was a technique, and I've seen the end results, and in all honesty they didn't have a patch on this, but I could see what they were aiming for. This finally brings a product to the market that really does do this kind of rough terrain justice. Well, I hope you found this video informative. Don't forget, tickle that like button and share this video. Really important to let other people know about some of the great products we've been reviewing, and also some of the other bits and pieces to give other people inspiration of what they can also do on their model railway. And don't forget as well, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, you can do so and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. And we've got some links down below to help you find all of the products featured on today's video. But until next time, you take really great care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Allen, oorail.co.uk, Tepic, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Peter Bolton, Brian Smith, Brian and Dorothy Mudd, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Trish Bits, Sparky 107107, George Botterini, Andy Finch, Chris Moss, and Robert Sears, MD of San Juan Model Company and Grant Line Products. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.